take this away. And I thought that when I became a Christian that things would be easier. But I look around and it's like I find myself like sitting in these places, and then I find myself like looking at other people, and I notice that my own heart is hard. And I think that I'm better than they are. So, God, I pray that you would save me from my own hardness of heart when I think that I'm better. And when I look at other people and I put them down in my mind. Because really, like, we don't want to be bad people. So what do we do when we find ourselves just like sitting in this mess? And so, like, while we're thinking about all of this, and we can admit that sometimes the things that we desire, they're not good. Like, you snap out of it and you think, wait, Sarah Parham is still hiding in a closet somewhere crying in the midst of all of this. So then what do we do when I realize that, Sarah's my friend. Shouldn't I go find her? Shouldn't I look for her? Maybe I shouldn't do this during a sermon. This is supposed to be like church time, right? But shouldn't I go look for her? Do you know where Sarah is? I need to find her. I'm sorry I'm doing this during the sermon, but I just feel like it needs to happen, like I have to find her. Am I just going to leave her? Am I just going to leave her in a closet and let her cry? I have to go find her. God, I feel like that's what Jesus would do, right? Like he would look for her. Okay, you admit to it. All right, so what did you do earlier today? It's okay.
Well, so, Bert and I, we're trying to save up for Christmas, so we went on a rice and beans diet. We ran out of rice.
So, you ate a bean pot, didn't you?
That's all we had. This is expensive.
Sarah, I just have to ask, what do you have in your pantry right now? Your pantry is completely filled with beans, isn't it? That's what I thought. Her pantry is filled with beans galore, and Christmas presents. Don't tell the kids. Okay, so what do we do to admit that we're not okay? Like, instead of trying to run away, instead of trying to hide things, because that's often like what we do, like in Christian culture, like we mess up, and then what do? We don't want anybody to know about it, so we run and we hide and we try to keep it a secret, because like on the outside we want to look like we're good, but like this whole time, like the Lord is saying, I still see you. Like I still see you when you're running, I see you when you're hiding, and you know what? Like I know you messed up, but I love you. And I'm going to go find you, because I'm not going to give up on you. The first thing we have to do is, let's admit that things aren't always okay. And then next thing is, let's be practical here. When I find Sarah, and she's pooped her pants, next thing is, we need to clean her up a little bit. Because it still ain't smelling good. Nobody wants that. So, we've got to clean up some stuff. And first thing, she needs to go take a shower. Goodness, go wash that off. You need to be cleansed. You need to be, renewed and refreshed. Sounds a lot like being baptized, right? We need to be, washed in the water and cleaned and cleansed. And the old stuff, it's not there anymore. Let's rinse it off and let's get rid of it. But sometimes, we think of, baptism as this, one-time event. But it doesn't stop there, because if we're being baptized on the inside, it means that we're cleaning up other stuff too. And it's not just super spiritual, oh, let me meditate and be cleansed of the mind. No, let's put some action on this. And okay, now I know that Sarah has a pantry full of beans, I know that she also has like a bean fetish or something going on right now. And so these two things together, they do not equal good stuff happening. So we need to go to the pantry and we need to get rid of some of those beans, like get them out of there. I know you like them, but you got to get rid of them. You've got to let some things go. So like this is wisdom, people, okay? So, I mean, if there is something that is there in your life and it is just like tripping you up over and over again, gosh, get rid of it. Get rid of the pantry of beans, people. Wisdom literature, get the beans out. All right, and so after we do like some practical things, then like number 3, we need to realize that the Christian life is not just about giving up stuff. It's not just about like getting rid of things that cause us to trip up. Like the Christian life is about living a life filled with the Spirit. That's what Paul is talking about in Romans 8. Like Romans 8 is all about life, like living by the Spirit. And so that means that we have like real life, real hope, real peace. So, at some point, Sarah is going to be hungry again. And she's going to have to fill herself with something. But instead of like going back to what she used to know, it's like she's got to fill herself with something different. I mean, Jesus, the bread of life, right? That come to mind? So we need to fill up on different things, and we need to fill up on the Lord. Because being hungry is not bad. And like having desires, that is not bad. It is when like your desires are like reigning over you. That's when things get out of control. And so it needs to be like the Lord who is like reigning over your life, and just filling yourself up with the Lord. And like when you start to be filled with the Spirit of God, like on the inside, then life like it's so much different. Because it's not about trying to avoid being smelly anymore. That's not what it's about. Like it's about being different from the inside into ourselves. That is what is going to come out. And so it's a change from the inside out, not from the outside in. So now let's ask ourselves, like, okay, we're a community trying to follow Jesus. And so sort of on the personal level, like we have like these things, I mean, we need to admit that we're not always okay. Just confess that. And then we need to get cleaned up a little bit. And then we need to start filling ourselves with the Lord rather than like all of these other things. So we're doing that as people, but let's do this together, because the Christian life is not lived alone. And so what do we do as a community? All right, first off, like we don't let people just sit around and poop on themselves, because that's just wrong. You don't need to, looking around, just like looking at one another, we don't let ourselves sit around and just poop, because that's not good for anyone, okay? But at the same time, like when someone does mess up, and when they're ashamed and they're hurting, they're angry at themselves, something that we're not going to do, we're not going to like rub it in their face. We're not going to point fingers, and we're not going to laugh at them. What we are going to do is that we are going to love them, we're going to speak truth, and we're going to walk with them even when they smell bad. And you see, following Jesus, it involves helping others, but it also involves admitting that we ourselves need help. Because you see, there's grace for the unrighteous, but there's also grace for the self-righteous. And so I want us to practice this tonight. So this is the lecture part. You just got the lecture, but let's move into lab, because the lab is where the fun stuff happens. So our question for this evening is, what is an area of life where you have messed up, or maybe where you tend to mess up, and that's a place where you would like some prayer? So we usually end by breaking into smaller groups and praying for one another. So tonight, I want you to get in a group with people that you are really comfortable sharing with. So feel free to move around. Just get people that you feel comfortable talking to. And this is the moment where if you need to sneak out, if you need to go somewhere, feel free. You don't have to stay and pray if you need to do something And if you don't like praying out loud, then you don't feel like you have to do that either. But I mean, there are people in the room that definitely want to pray for you if you would like that. So we're going to talk about that question, and then something else. Okay, so we're admitting things, and we're going to pray and give those over to God. But we want to fill ourselves as well. So I'm giving you a homework assignment for this week. I want you to read on your own Romans chapters 7 and 8. That's where the scripture came out of for tonight. And on Wednesday during lunch, so over here in the dining room at 12 noon, we're going to do like a lunchtime discussion. So we're going to continue this conversation because it's like we want to be filled, but like we want to do this together. So we're going to pray, and then we're going to fill ourselves with the God, and we're going to continue talking about this. So lunch will be provided on Wednesday, like it'll be for free. We'll have stuff to share, which will be vegetarian friendly, and we will not have beans. So yeah, that is on Wednesday. But yeah, tonight let's go ahead and start to get into your groups, and just